Now, people are saying that she didn't write this book. But my thing is, if someone else wrote the book, how would they know all of this information? Not only about Diddy, but other celebrities as well. So if she didn't write it, then it had to be someone who was either there with Kim or someone she told the information to. And they probably just, put it in words or audio form.
So, y'all, I finished the book. Okay, I finished the book. In that last chapter, I finished listening to the book over on YouTube. That last chapter really took the cake for it being a Tubi movie. So the writer wants us to believe that she was writing up and through, and I do mean up and through her passing away. So she let Kimora Lee know that, she's not feeling good. I feel sick. So Kimora mentioned, like, we could go to the hospital, see if you got the flu. She said, no, that's whatever. It's whatever. Long story short, she ended up determining that Sean did whatever he was doing to people, and she's going to end up passing away from this pneumonia, this weird pneumonia, right? So she texts Kimora, he got me. Those were her words to Kimora. He got me. After that, she's talking about, she's reflecting a little bit on her life and her time with him. She calls Diddy up. Diddy answers and she's like yelling, how could you? I'm the mother of your freaking kids. And Diddy is just sitting there, of course, being heartless. And he's saying, like, loyalty means everything to me and yada yada. And yes, shortly after that, she passes away. So instead of her calling 911, knowing that he got me, she passes away. The main character, the main person in this book that could clear all this shit up, that he put and named with specifics and details in this book, is Kimora. Kimora could come out and knock this shit completely out the water and say it's fabrication. The person who wrote this book is a lie. Okay? Because they just done gave us way too many detailed information, especially with sending Kimora that text message of he got me. He also listed other names, and I think if we're going by this book, I would think that the motive was not an autobiography. And in real life, that doesn't make sense either. Oh, she's writing a book, a tell-all, she gotta go. So she spoke about how Diddy was getting more and more violent towards her, and she knew she needed to get out from up under him. Okay. So she would, after their trysts or whatever, and he would be known to pass out and she knew he wouldn't wake up, she would start taking tapes from his vault, and she would take them home, record dub the tapes, and then the next time she came over, she would return them. And it took her a minute, but she got all the tapes. And she said that what she found on the tapes was shocking. And she found out and discovered that he was having these FOs with young boys, okay? And the boys that she named that she's seen in the tapes over the years, I'm assuming, is Usher, Little Bow Wow, and Bieber. Now, she had let him know before passing that she know, and she got these tapes, blah, blah, blah. And that might have came off as a threat. And I feel like that was the motive for him to have to get rid of her, because she got those tapes. Not of the just regular FOs, but she got tapes of you and young boys. That would make you a pedophile and a predator, now wouldn't it? Now, you can go back and listen to, like I said, Gene Deal. Listen to Choke No Joke. I would rather y'all listen to people who have actually been in surroundings with Puffy and have a history Puffy and know Puffy. But when you match up some of these stories to what some of the stories that Gene then told us, because he was there in these certain scenarios, and he already did confirm that one story that happened, that when they was all at the parties, the Grammy, I don't know if it was the Grammys or the Grammy after party, and Kadada called him out for being the reason why Tupac got shot at the studio, which apparently everybody knew this shit, okay? Everybody knew that he was behind Pac getting shot. Not Big, but Pac. But Diddy was. And Kidada called him out on that and said everyone knows this or whatever, blah, blah, blah. He was pissed off, but Diddy knew that since she was Quincy Jones' daughter, much couldn't be done. He couldn't really do much to her. So when Kimora got her to get up to go to the bathroom, he took the picture of Ginger Ale that was sitting on her table and put it underneath the table. He peed in it and put it back on the table. And he was just sitting there, like, after she came back, shooting the breeze with her, waiting for her to drink it. To which Jean, when she was pouring her a drink, Jean stopped her from drinking it. Like I told y'all, Jean don't fuck with, Diddy don't fuck with Jean. And Jean also said, because I was watching his interview last night, Jean said Diddy didn't fuck with Heavy D either. It was certain people that he knew he could get away with and do shit around and do to, and certain people he didn't fuck with. And Heavy D was one of those people that could tell Diddy what to do. And he didn't fuck around with Jean. So he didn't buck back at Jean. But he did confirm that did happen. That was something that happened that night. Now, that was an old interview, though. They just happened to be talking about that night. So, I don't know if, now that this book has fully came out, if Jean is going to do an update interview about some of the things that was talked about, because they talk about certain things in detail as if they was in the room, okay? I mean, of course, this is coming through as being Kimora, right? I mean, being Kim. So, you would have to talk about and give us detail, like, I was there for this combo and et cetera, et cetera. So the only person that I feel like was around them in proximity to them was Jean, and he could clear things up. And like I said, Kimora could clear a lot of shit up in this book because he was calling her out throughout the whole book. This was her best friend and her lover because apparently they was munching on each other's carpet. So I don't know, y'all. But
I read Kim Porter's tell-all book on Sean P. Diddy Combs, so you don't have to, and I'm going to paraphrase it for you. Kim grew up in Georgia, and after high school, she started getting modeling jobs, and she knew that she had to get out of Georgia if she was going to make it big, so she moved to the West Coast, I'm assuming to LA. This is where she met her husband, Al. So he was in the industry, they fell in love, they got married at 19, and she immediately had a child named Quincy. She really loves this guy. It didn't work out, they did get divorced, but they stayed really good friends, and he's someone that's still very near and dear to her. Then she meets Sean Combs while they're both working at the Uptown label. He's starting to be up and coming, but he's not like huge yet, and he is super into her. He's making advances. She's kind of like, all right, he's cool. I think they go on a couple of dates, but it doesn't become serious, no big deal. But then they run into each other at an event, and he's putting on the charm. He's sitting down next to her, and he's like, you look amazing, and she's like, oh my God, thanks. And he's like, we should get dinner, and she's like, no. And then he's like, oh, Kim, I think I'm falling in love with you. And she's like, okay. So then they end up going to dinner. Something must have happened after their first couple of dates because in the book she says he's begging for a second chance and she gives it to him, but she doesn't say what happened. So then they end up dating for real. Like they're together for like a year and a half at this point. At one point she's referencing how he comes up to her and he's like, please, can you do it for me again? And it's alluding to pegging him. He's like, please, I want you to do that to me again. And she's kind of like, Sean, no, like I don't want to do that again. And then she kind of makes a sly comment because he's like, oh, like I want you to blank me like that again. And then she goes, isn't Clive the one blanking you? Clive Davis, implying that Clive is blanking him, and then he slaps her hard. And before she can even react, he's like on the floor being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. She ends up leaving, and he keeps like sending flowers and gifts to her house, and she's like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. But then they run into each other at an event again. He comes up to her, she's like, get away from me. And then he sits her down and he's like, no, you know I love you, nothing's gonna keep us apart. I love your son, like your son is my son, blah, blah, blah. And that like gets her because she's like, okay, he is really good with my son. And so she then turns and looks at him and she's like, okay, let's get coffee. She literally says in the book, what the fuck is wrong with me? Girl, don't blame yourself. Then Sean comes to her house for their like reuniting date. He's got flowers. He's like being super good with the kid. Although she does make a note that like he tapped the kid on the butt, like smacked his butt. Weird. He calls a babysitter for them. They go out. The driver is named Gene and he's got a weapon on him and Kim like sees it and she's kind of like, that's weird. And she says like, I'm going to see this guy a lot more I'm going to see this guy Gene a lot more throughout my life. They go out, they have a fun night. I think it kind of involves sexy things. Chapter 5, she says the year passed pretty well. They didn't have any problems, but then Sean is getting into voodoo and he's putting curses on people. Okay. This is where Mary J. Blige enters the chat. So I guess he starts working with her and then he admits that he's actually hooked up with her. And so Kim gets pissed, but then he suggests, hey, why don't we have a threesome, the three of us? And Kim's kind of like, I mean, she is pretty. I don't know. So they end up having a threesome. She's like, I don't know, like Mary J. Blige is super beautiful. I'm not into women, but exploring my sexuality was enticing, so whatever. Over the years, they brought many other women into their bedroom, so they were kind of like they were open. One day she comes home and Al, her ex-husband, is at the kitchen table with her boyfriend, Sean, which is super awkward. And she's like, okay, this is weird. And she says, you know, the awkwardness between all of us had passed a long time ago, but it's still weird that the two of them are hanging out in my home, like her ex-husband and her current boyfriend and the father of her son, you know? And then after they've been drinking, Al is kind of like, you know, we've all been together, just like not together. Like we've all been together, but not at the same time. And she's kind of like, the fuck do you mean? And then Sean and him are kind of like encouraging her to have a threesome with them. And she's kind of like, first of all, this is crazy. And also like, what if it goes weird? And like, what about my son? But also I do kind of love both of you. And like, it could be fun. Like, I don't know. So she's like, all right, let's do it. And then as it's happening, it's alluded in the book, it's X'd out, but it's pretty clear. The threesome becomes a twosome between Sean and Al. And she's kind of like, what the fuck? So she freaks out and leaves. And Sean's like, babe, come back. It's like totally cool. Like, don't even worry. And you kind of gather that like, maybe this isn't the first time that they've done this. And she's weirded out by this. She couldn't look at him the same for a while. It's strange. And also at this point, she mentions she found a vault where he kept all of his encounters with men on video.
Come to find out, Kim's lost words was not actually her words at all. But I still want to read some of the things in the book that I found interesting that were, I guess, complete lies. But I feel like a lot of this stuff I found interesting because it's stuff that we already kind of heard but kind of exaggerated. But if you want to read the book, read the book. But if it's not true, it's a lot of stuff we already heard. But here's a couple things I found interesting that I had never heard before. The diddler was into voodoo. He would put curses on people. Kim and the diddler and Mary J. Blige would do threesomes. I'll be sure the diddler and Kim would do threesomes. Kim and Pac hooked up, and she actually really liked Pac, according to the book. Diddy put the hit out on Pac and then released Who Shot Ya. Threesomes, also Jamie Foxx. Jay and the dealer would hook up. I don't know. Pac and Biggie were going to start a label together. I'd never heard that one. Jay-Z wanted to be in Big Spot. Kadia Jones was Quincy Jones' daughter, who used to date Tupac, confronted Diddy about shooting Pac at a award show, and Diddy pissed in her drink, but she didn't drink it because the security guard stopped her from drinking it. Threesomes with Jada Pinkett and Will, orgies and threesomes with them. He only dated J-Lo for publicity. He allegedly admitted to killing people via pneumonia to her. Wouldn't help Big's mom after he passed away. Faith Evans, the dealer, and her would do threesomes. Faith only was with Biggie to monitor him, and those are orders of the dealer. She also was sleeping with Pac and just to monitor him as well too. So the dealer had her monitoring Tupac and Biggie. That's why she was allegedly sleeping with Pac too. Where are we at? While she was pregnant, he would make her do orgies and sleep with other people for spiritual reasons and for some type of spiritual. Okay. Everybody she dated would die of pneumonia. Where was he at? Oh, he allegedly had hidden videotapes in a vault with him doing things with Justin Bieber, Bow Wow, and Usher when they're underage. And then she allegedly confronted Diddy with Marley Simmons there, and he pushed her, and then she pushed him down the stairs, and then he had to go to the hospital. I don't know, y'all. It sounds like a bunch of YouTube conspiracies to me, kind of messed up. Could be her words, but allegedly she did have like diaries, and she was going to put a book out about Diddy, but this is not the book. So if the book comes out ever one day, we can compare this to that.